Well, there is a revolution in amateur sports nationwide. Women's wrestling. And now the smallest college in Division I athletics, Presbyterian, started the first ever Division I women's wrestling team.
Aaron Cheslock, our sports director, joining us here now, and this sport just exploding.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Women's wrestling, the fastest growing sport in the country, according to Presbyterian. About 22,000 girls are wrestling at the high school level right now. But it's only sanctioned at the prep level in 21 states, not North or South Carolina, which means that hundreds of girls are forced to wrestle boys the majority of the time as they come up through the ranks. Now, some hate it, others say it makes them tougher, but each wants to grapple in their own class of girls. A night of relaxing.
Have you studied for it?
It's not the norm for Lillian Humphreys, but the sophomore at Presbyterian, along with her teammates, just made history.
Are you ready?
The first ever home match for the Blue Hose, the first women's Division I college wrestling program. It's coached by one of their own.
It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the little girl that I was when I was wrestling. I was wrestling the boys. How far women's wrestling has come in such a short amount of time.
Danny DeAnda's story resonates with her wrestlers, especially Humphreys, whose love for martial arts evolved to wrestling in 9th grade at Blue Ridge High, the only girl on an all-boys varsity team. Her opponents, also all boys.
When I first started wrestling, I got beat up a lot, and it definitely, I felt discouraged a lot because I was like, well, I don't feel like I'm getting any better. Like I did want to quit, but deep down I was like, you know, if I quit, people were just gonna be like, see, I told you so. So really, I had to push myself, and I had to tell myself that it will get better. I'm gonna get better step by step.
She took a bad beating that year, and I never told her she could quit, but you know, had she come to me and said, Dad, I'm gonna do something different, I said, okay, that's great. But you know, she hung in there.
I had people tell me that, you know, I wasn't good enough. They told me that I wasn't gonna make it. I wasn't gonna do anything with wrestling. And you know, that hurt my feelings a lot, but I definitely think that pushed me to want to prove everybody wrong and, you know, become a D1 wrestler.
Most of the Blue Hose team shares a similar story.
In high school, I was the only girl wrestling, and I had a lot of refs and a lot of coaches that didn't respect me, and a lot of other athletes that didn't respect me.
DeAnda makes sure to get it out in the open in her program.
A lot of these athletes probably came from a similar situation I did because not every state is sanctioned with women's wrestling. So a lot of our athletes on the team understand that grind, wrestling the men throughout high school. But yeah, I think a lot of us share that same, upbringing through the sport, and hopefully as my daughter goes through the sport and the younger girls, they don't have to, they can just wrestle with the girls.
It's still an issue in the youth ranks. Meet Carly and Kylie Langley, 9 and 8 respectively. Cute as a button when playing with Barbies, already forces on the mat. They hear the comments too, from their classmates.
Some kids in my class, they'll say like wrestling is only for boys and girls should not wrestle.
What about you?
And they say we can't wrestle.
Both already champions on the youth circuit, the Langleys get their revenge against the boys on the wrestling mat. The physical toll of amateur wrestling is brutal. Diet, conditioning, but when you're the one girl in an arena of boys, the mental toughness, that's the biggest hurdle.
When I went to tournaments or matches and stuff, I'd get looks from other people, and my parents could hear other parents talking about me in the stands.
Humphrey's dad, John, says 2 high schools forfeited instead of facing off with his daughter's team. Sexist comments and gestures require an incredible amount of restraint from parents, too.
We were sitting in the crowd, and you know, you would hear all the parents yelling at their sons, you better not let a girl beat you. You know, there's not a teenage boy in South Carolina that wants to get pinned by a girl in front of all his buddies.
It was hard. I mean, you'd sit up there in the stands and you'd hear parents say, oh my gosh, there's a girl out there? And my first instinct is to hammer fist them. And John's like, no, can't do that. So you have to sit up there and not say a word because you want to respect the sport, you want the sport to grow and for them to respect Lily. And we saw that change because it went from, oh my gosh, that's a girl out there, to, oh no, that's that girl. You want to watch your game with her.
Match after match, loss after loss, Lillian never quit. And eventually, the pin for the win.
I mean, the very first match she won, the guy threw his headgear and went and cried behind the bleachers. Lily never did that.
There were several times I had guys who that came out there like, oh, this is gonna be nothing, I'm gonna beat this girl, and then I go, and like I have videos of it where I then pin them, and then they like sit up and they're like, what just happened? And it's like, you can't underestimate me just because I'm a girl. I think that's the biggest battle, is to really tell yourself, you know, you can do it. You know, it's hard, you know, it sucks. It's not fun sometimes, but like once, you know, you win that big match that you've been wanting to win for a long time, then it's worth it. Everything you did is worth it at that point.
4 years later and more than 30 wins over guys on her resume, Humphries set to sign with a college in Montana to wrestle. But then Presbyterian takes the leap to start the first ever D1 women's program. A move by the smallest school in Division I, which they hope sends a ripple effect across the nation. Now, the startup of the Blue Hose program has been in the works for almost a couple years now. They're still in season right now. Coming up at 10, we bring you part 2, where Carly and Kylie Langley find out there's a spot in the upstate where they can go wrestle in college against girls just like them. They send a special message to the Blue Hose women who continue to blaze the trail for them. Do not miss it again. That's coming up at